Japan nuclear crisis at level 7. Japan raised the severity level of the crisis at its crippled nuclear plant to rank it on par with the 1986 Chernobyl disaster, citing cumulative radiation leaks that have contaminated the air, tap water, vegetables, and seawater. Japanese nuclear regulators said the rating was being raised from 5 to 7, the highest level on an international scale overseen by the International Atomic Energy Agency, after new assessments of radiation leaks from the Fukushima Daiichi plant since it was disabled by the March 11 tsunami. The new ranking signifies a major accident that includes widespread effects on the environment and health, according to the Vienna-based IAEA. Our preparations for how to measure the radiation leakage when such a tsunami and earthquake occurred were insufficient, and, as a result, we were late in disseminating information internationally, said a senior official in the Prime Minister's office. The decision to raise the severity of the incident from level 5 to 7, the same as the Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine in 1986, was based on cumulative quantities of radiation released. Even before this, we had considered this a very serious incident, so, in that sense, there will be no big change in the way we deal with it, just because it has been designated level 7, an agency official has said. Continued aftershocks following the 9.0 magnitude mega quake on March 11th have impeded work in stabilizing the Fukushima plant. The latest, a 6.3 magnitude, one Tuesday, that prompted the plant operator Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO, to temporarily pull back workers. The aftershock caused a fire to break out at the plant, but engineers later extinguished the blaze. However, the operator of the stricken faculty appears to be no closer to restoring cooling systems at the reactors, critical to lowering the temperature of overheated nuclear fuel rods. So again, this is an ongoing, continuing, rolling disaster. The Prime Minister has instructed the plant operator, Tokyo Electric Power, to set target dates for when it would halt the radiation leakage, as well as restore the cooling systems. So far, no radiation-linked deaths have been reported since the earthquake struck, and only 21 plant workers have been affected by minor radiation sickness. A level 7 incident means a major release of radiation with a widespread health and environmental impact, while a 5 level is a limited release of radioactive material with several deaths, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. The increase in the severity level heightens the risk of diplomatic tension with Japan's neighbors over radioactive fallout. China and South Korea have already been critical of the operator's decision to pump radioactive water into the sea, a process that is now stopped. Raising the level to a 7 has serious diplomatic implications. It is telling people that the accident has the potential to cause trouble to our neighbors, said a nuclear expert at Osaka University. Japan's new assessment was based largely on computer models showing very heavy emissions of radioactive iodine and cesium from March 14th to 16th, just after the earthquake and tsunami rendered the plant's emergency cooling system inoperative. The nearly month-long delay in acknowledging the extent of these emissions is a fresh example of confused data and analysis from the Japanese, and put the authorities on the defensive about whether they have delayed or blocked the release of information to avoid alarming the public. In other words, it's possible they might have not been telling the whole truth. A commissioner of Japan's Nuclear Safety Commission, an independent government panel that oversees the country's nuclear industry, said that the government had delayed issuing data on the extent of the radiation releases because of concern that the margins of error had been large in initial computer models, but he also suggested a public policy reason for having kept quiet. Some foreigners fled the country even when there appeared to be little risk, he said. If we immediately decided to label the situation as level 7, we could have triggered a panicked reaction. The Japanese media, which has a reputation for passivity, has become more aggressive in response to public unhappiness about the nuclear accident, questioned government leaders through the day on Tuesday about what the government knew about the accident and when it knew it. The peak release and emissions of radioactive particles took place following hydrogen explosions at 3 reactors, as technicians desperately tried to pump in seawater to keep the uranium fuel rods cool, and bled radioactive gas from the reactors in order to make room for the seawater. Some nuclear experts say that the Japanese accident so far has posed fewer health risks than Chernobyl. In the Soviet-era accident at Chernobyl, a burning graphite reactor pushed radioactive particles high into the atmosphere and downwind across Europe. The Japanese accident has mostly produced radioactive liquid runoff into the ocean and low-altitude radioactive particles that have frequently blown out into the ocean and fallen into the water as well. But there could also be cumulative effects that are not known as of now, because this is a continuing catastrophe. This event, along with the Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island disaster, is what Revelation chapter 8 verse 10 is talking about. They used to call it wormwood. Now they call it radiation. And all these are more signs of the times, the end times, transition days, which is a continuing day-by-day process of extraordinary happenings, changes, and events increasing in frequency. Again, Revelation chapter 8, verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. 11. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many humans died of the waters, because they were made bitter. 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. 13. And I beheld, and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels, which are yet to sound. Also, Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. And all these are more physical manifestations of the book of Revelation. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered.